This video was brought to you by CuriosityStream. Watch now and get our streaming service Nebula absolutely free, where you can get exclusive TLDR videos and an extended version of our new show, The Daily Briefing. On Monday, thousands of Pakistanis took to the streets to protest Imran Khan's removal as Prime Minister of Pakistan, after opposition parties passed a controversial no-confidence motion against the former cricketer on Sunday. Khan has himself accused Pakistan's opposition of conspiring with the US to oust him, and things are getting dangerously heated. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Pakistan's ongoing political crisis, what might happen next, and why this is probably bad news for both Pakistan's politics and economy. So let's start with a bit of context. As we detailed in our video last week, Pakistan has been suffering through an economic crisis for the last couple of years. GDP per capita has fallen from about $1,500 in 2018 to just $1,300 today. Inflation is running hot at about 13%, and debt servicing costs have become unmanageable. Now, to be fair to Khan, he's not entirely blamed for this crisis. Successive administrations before him have borrowed and spent too much money, which is why Pakistan has needed 22 bailouts from the IMF since they joined in 1950. Nonetheless, his flip-flopping with the IMF apparently hasn't improved Pakistan's economic fortunes, which is why his support among both parliament and the public has waned since his election in 2018. Things came to a head though on March 30th, when the MQMP party left Khan's governing coalition, which meant that the opposition had a 177-seat majority in Pakistan's 342-member assembly. The opposition then promptly called a no-confidence vote, which Khan looked certain to lose. But on March 3rd, when the no-confidence vote was scheduled to take place, Pakistan's Deputy Speaker, a close ally of Khan, declared the vote unconstitutional. And this was massive news at the time. The Deputy Speaker was refusing to hold the no-confidence vote, and instead dissolved Parliament, calling for entirely new elections. Unsurprisingly, the opposition weren't happy about this, so they took the issue to Pakistan's Supreme Court, and after a few days of deliberation, on March 7th, the court declared that the dissolution of Parliament was unconstitutional, and ordered Parliament to reconvene last Sunday for that much-anticipated no-confidence vote. As was expected, once the vote rolled round, Khan lost with 174 legislators voting against him, 2 more than the simple majority that was required. With Khan out of office, on Monday Parliament voted in Shehbaz Sharif as Pakistan's new Prime Minister, the brother of Khan's predecessor Nawaz Sharif and the leader of the opposition. Now, to an outside observer, this might sound like politics functioning as it should. The Supreme Court upheld the constitution, and the Pakistani Assembly quickly voted in a new Prime Minister. Unfortunately, though, this narrative understates the true degree of political instability in Pakistan at the moment. That's because Khan's PTI party boycotted Sharif's election in the Pakistani parliament, and he's continued to accuse the opposition of conspiring with the US against him. Despite no evidence to support this claim, over the last few days, Khan has variously described the opposition as an imported government, pliable crooks, and Mir Jafars and Mir Sadiqs, a reference to the 2 generals who defected to the British Army in the 18th century, paving the way for British domination over the Indian subcontinent. Galvanized by this rhetoric, on Sunday night thousands of Khan's supporters took to the streets to protest his ousting. Khan then endorsed the protests as proof that Pakistanis at home and abroad emphatically reject Sharif's tenure. Clearly then, the political temperature in Pakistan is reaching dangerously high levels. So what happens next? Well, Pakistan's politics are unlikely to return to normal anytime soon. With Khan still in the background, accusing him of treason, Sharif will struggle to run an effective administration, especially given that Pakistan's economy is in more trouble than ever. This political instability has pushed the Pakistani rupee down to new lows, which will probably only exacerbate their existing economic issues. In his inaugural speech to Pakistan's parliament, Sharif warned that the country was heading for the largest budget deficit in the country's history, and it will be hard to fix this economic issue, because Sharif's party only have 82 seats in parliament, which means that he'll struggle to pass any controversial legislation. But while Sharif's government might not look like a great option, elections wouldn't have been all that much better. Recent local elections have been marred by political violence, and given that this campaign would involve Khan accusing his opponents of treason, any national elections would almost definitely be even more violent than the ones we've seen in the past. Pakistan's Election Commission also made clear that elections would take a minimum of 6 months to organise, which means that elections wouldn't even provide respite in the short term. You get the point. Pakistan is looking at political turmoil for the foreseeable future. In a sense, though, this is more the norm rather than the exception. None of Pakistan's 29 prime ministers have successfully completed a term in office, and this is in large part due to the destabilising influence of Pakistan's military, who prevent any politician from establishing a stable base in order to maintain their political monopoly and protect their finances, because they account for about 20% of Pakistan's total government expenditure. It's possible then that long-term political stability in the country might require a complete rebalancing of its constitution to shift power away from the military and back towards Pakistan's elected politicians. As a last thing though, it's worth mentioning that this political instability has been exacerbated by rising food prices. Food inflation in Pakistan has been running at about 12% since 2020 and hit an 11-month high of 15.3% this March. Pakistan isn't alone in this respect either. Rising food prices have contributed to political instability in Sri Lanka, Peru and Egypt, to name just a few countries. According to the UN's Food Price Index, food prices are at their highest rate on record, nearly double what they were a couple of years ago, with global food prices jumping a massive 12% in March alone, the largest single-month increase on record. The point we're making here is that historically, food crises have accompanied political instability. So if food prices continue to rise, things are only going to get more volatile in Pakistan and other developing countries. If you want to be updated on this story as it plays out, then you should subscribe to the Daily Briefing, our show where we break down the 5 stories you need to know about each day in just 5 minutes. Kind of like your daily news vitamins to get you in the know quickly. Now, if you're interested, then you can watch it on the Daily Briefing YouTube channel, or you can listen by searching in your favourite podcast app. But if you want the extended version of the show, that's an extra 10 minutes every single day and an ad-free experience, then you'll want to sign up to our streaming service Nebula. There you'll also find all kinds of exclusive TLDR videos which will never make it to YouTube, and all of our latest videos ad-free. And if you're interested, then I've got good news, because we partnered with CuriosityStream, the home of the best documentaries online. Thanks to them, you can get both streaming services. That's CuriosityStream for all the docs you could want, and Nebula for bonus TLDR for less than $15 a year. That's a wild deal, and a 26% discount on their already low price. So get yourself a ton of documentaries and exclusive content from your favorite creators, including the Daily Briefing Extended Edition, by signing up using the link below. Thanks for your support.